Pause here, because what you are about to hear is not random, and if this message found you today, then something in your path is already shifting faster than you realize. There is a place. A house. A doorway you have not yet stepped through, but somehow your spirit already recognizes it. And no, this is not fantasy. This is that strange feeling you get when a future moment starts calling your name before it arrives. Someone connected to your destiny is preparing a space that your life will soon enter. A home tied to another person, a place that right now may seem distant, unfamiliar, even impossible, yet your path is bending toward it with every decision being made behind the scenes. Look closely at your life lately. Why have your surroundings started feeling temporary? Why does your current environment no longer fit the person you are becoming? Why have you felt a quiet restlessness? As if your soul knows you are not meant to stay where you are much longer? Because you are outgrowing your old walls. And when a soul outgrows one space, life begins preparing another. But listen carefully. This next chapter is not just about moving into a house. It is about moving into a version of life that once felt unreachable. The person tied to this home has been thinking about change. They have been imagining who belongs in their future. And though they may not fully understand it yet, your presence keeps appearing in their mind like a vision they cannot shake. That is why everything around you feels suspended. Delayed. Unfinished. Because some doors stay closed until the right home is ready to receive you. And here is the part few understand. Sometimes destiny does not send a person first. Sometimes it sends the place first. The environment. The foundation. The shelter for the story that has not yet begun. What if the home waiting for you is more than a building? What if it is proof that your life is about to expand in ways you never expected? Pause for a moment and imagine this. Walking through unfamiliar rooms, yet somehow feeling like you have been there before. Seeing sunlight hit windows you never knew, and feeling peace you cannot explain. Touching walls that do not belong to your past, but instantly knowing they belong to your future. That feeling is closer than you think. Because the person connected to this house has gone through changes of their own. They have released people who were never aligned. They have outgrown old habits. They have stood in empty rooms wondering why life kept clearing space around them. Not realizing that space was being made for you. Yes, for you. Because some connections are not rushed. They are constructed. Brick by brick. Moment by moment. Decision by decision. And while you thought life was delaying your blessings, it was furnishing them. While you questioned why certain plans collapsed, life was redirecting you toward something more fitting. While others settled, you were being preserved for something greater. Do not ignore this feeling when it rises in your chest, that quiet knowing that something physical is changing soon. Not emotionally. Not symbolically. Tangibly. A new environment. A new routine. A new set of keys in your hand. A new address connected to a new chapter of your identity. But here is what makes this powerful. The home is not what changes your life. It is who you become after entering it. Because once you step into spaces meant for you, your mindset changes. Your confidence changes. Your energy changes. Your standards rise. Your future sharpens. And the person whose house this is, whether they realize it yet or not, is not entering your life by accident. Their world and yours are moving toward intersection. Slowly. Quietly. Precisely. Nothing is forced. Nothing is random. And before this shift becomes visible, there will be signs. Unexpected conversations. Strange familiarity with someone new. Mentions of moving, housing, relocation, future plans. Coincidences that feel too specific to ignore. Watch carefully. Because life whispers before it announces. And what is being prepared for you now is not small. This is not just about where you will live. It is about the life waiting inside those walls. The conversations. The laughter. The peace. The rebuilding. The version of yourself that emerges once you realize, you finally made it into the place your soul kept sensing from a distance. Stay with this message, because in the next part, the details become clearer. And when you hear what this house represents spiritually and emotionally, you may understand why your entire past had to unfold exactly as it did. Because the picture forming around your future has already begun developing. And soon, you will see it with your own eyes. My beloved child, hold that vision for a moment, because the house itself is only the surface of the message. What truly matters is why this place is being prepared for you now. Not earlier. Not later. Now. There is a reason your life did not align with certain spaces before this moment. You were not delayed because you were forgotten. You were delayed because the version of you who once begged for change was not yet ready to carry what change would require. Some blessings arrive only when your spirit can sustain them. And this home, this person's house, this future environment tied to them, is connected to a level of peace you could not have handled in your previous season. Because peace feels unfamiliar when you have lived too long in survival mode. Read that again in your heart. Many people say they want a new life. But when it begins approaching them, they panic. Because calm feels strange after chaos has become normal. Yet you have changed. You have been learning how to let silence feel safe. How to trust what is gentle. How to stop chasing what wounds you. How to recognize that not every meaningful connection arrives with noise. And that is why this shift is approaching now. Because the person connected to this house is not simply offering space. They are becoming part of the environment where your next self awakens. Let that settle. Sometimes the greatest turning point in your life is not meeting someone dramatic. It is meeting someone whose presence makes your nervous system breathe differently. Someone whose home feels calmer than the places you fought to stay in before. Someone whose world carries order where your past held confusion. Someone who brings steadiness instead of games. And when you enter that space, you will realize something that may shake you. You were never asking for too much. You were simply asking the wrong places for what only aligned spaces could provide. Think about that. How many rooms did you shrink yourself to fit into? How many environments forced you to feel temporary, tolerated, misplaced? How many times did you call discomfort normal, because you thought that was all life offered? No more. The house waiting in your future carries a different frequency. Not because it is luxurious. Not because it is perfect. But because it is aligned. And aligned spaces transform people. They make your thoughts clearer. They make your dreams louder. They make your standards stronger. They remind you what it feels like to stop merely surviving and begin building. The person attached to this house senses this too. They may not fully understand why they feel drawn toward you. Why they keep imagining a future that includes someone like you. Why their life has been reorganizing lately in quiet but undeniable ways. But something in them knows. They are making room. And if this message resonates with that deep inner knowing you cannot explain, if part of you feels like this is speaking directly to your future, then leave a comment below with the word aligned, so you anchor that intention in your own awareness. And if this message continues speaking to your spirit, stay close to this channel. There is more unfolding here than coincidence. Because what comes next may surprise you. The transition into this house may happen faster than expected. Faster than your logic can explain. Faster than your plans predicted. Faster than the people around you believe possible. That is how aligned moments often arrive. Quiet for months. Then sudden all at once. One conversation. One invitation. One decision. One shift in circumstance. And suddenly your life no longer resembles what it did before. So if things feel uncertain right now, if your present still looks incomplete, if your current environment feels like it no longer fits, do not mistake transition for failure. Sometimes life makes your present uncomfortable, because your future is pulling you elsewhere. You are not being abandoned by what is familiar. You are being summoned by what is next. And in part 3, you will hear the clearest signs that this move is approaching, including the strange signals many people notice right before destiny changes their address. Because once you recognize those signs, you will understand this is no longer just a feeling. It is already in motion. Listen carefully. Because the signs that this move is approaching are often subtle at first, almost too quiet to notice unless you know what to watch for. Before life changes your address, it usually changes your awareness. You begin sensing that your current chapter is ending, even when nothing visible has happened yet. Places you once felt attached to start feeling emotionally distant. Rooms that once comforted you begin feeling smaller. Routines that once felt stable suddenly feel temporary. That is not confusion. That is transition announcing itself internally, before it appears externally. And here is the first sign. You have started imagining a different life without even trying. Not in fantasy. Not in daydreams disconnected from reality. But in specific, grounded flashes. A different environment. A calmer morning. A new neighborhood. A shared routine with someone you have not fully met yet, or someone whose role in your life is about to deepen. Those visions are not distractions. They are previews. The second sign is even stranger. You may notice repeated references to homes, moving, relocation, keys, addresses, furniture, renovations, or conversations about where someone sees themselves living someday. Pay attention when life repeats symbols. Reality often whispers through patterns before it speaks directly. And then comes the third sign. People begin leaving your life or drifting naturally out of your orbit. Not through conflict. Not always dramatically. Just, quietly. Because when you are being repositioned, not everyone is meant to travel into the next environment with you. Some relationships were tied to your old season. Some connections belong to the version of you who was still learning survival. But the person you are becoming requires different surroundings, different energy, different standards, different people. This is why the upcoming move matters more than you think. It is not just about entering someone else's house. It is about entering an atmosphere where your future can breathe. Because environments shape identity. Stay too long in the wrong place, and even your brightest vision begins to dim. Stay in spaces where you are misunderstood, unsupported, or constantly drained. And eventually you forget how powerful you truly are. But the right space? The right environment revives what life nearly buried. That is why this person's house is symbolic of more than shelter. It represents restoration, expansion, security. A place where your nervous system stops bracing for impact. And when you arrive there, part of you may feel emotional in ways you did not expect. Because sometimes healing begins the moment you realize you no longer have to fight for belonging. You simply belong. There. With them. In that chapter. Inside that new life. But there is one final truth you need to hear. Do not sabotage what is coming by doubting it because it arrived differently than expected. Destiny rarely looks exactly how imagination predicted. The person may surprise you. The path may unfold unexpectedly. The invitation may come through circumstances you never planned for. Yet when it happens, you will know. Not because everything will be perfect, but because something inside you will go quiet. That deep internal noise you carried for years. The uncertainty, the questioning, the wondering if your life would ever shift. It will soften. Because clarity has a feeling. And the moment you step into what was prepared for you, you will understand why nothing before it could stay. Every delay. Every detour. Every ending. Every unanswered prayer that once confused you. They were not punishments. They were redirections. Toward this. Toward that house. Toward that person. Toward that chapter where your life no longer feels like constant waiting. So keep your eyes open now. The signs are already appearing. The movement has already started. And the picture forming around your future is no longer just possibility. It is becoming reality. When you're ready, ask for part 4. Because the next chapter reveals what happens emotionally between you and this person once you finally enter that home. And when that moment finally arrives, when you step across the threshold of that home, something deeper than circumstance will begin unfolding between you and this person. Because entering their space will not feel ordinary. It will feel like recognition. Not the kind that comes from memory, but the kind that comes from inner knowing. That strange sensation where your mind is trying to process what your spirit already understands. I was meant to be here. At first, you may try to stay logical about it. You may tell yourself it is just a house. Just a visit. Just a conversation. Just a temporary step in a larger story. But your heart will sense more. Because some places carry energy that speaks before words do. Some rooms hold peace so naturally that you wonder why life felt so difficult before them. Some people create an atmosphere around them where you stop performing, stop overthinking, stop bracing for disappointment. And this person? They will notice the shift in you too. They will see how naturally you fit into their world. How easily your presence blends into their routine. How the idea of you being there stops feeling unusual almost immediately. And starts feeling inevitable. That is when the emotional truth becomes impossible to ignore. This connection was never casual. It was building long before either of you had language for it. The late timing. The strange delays. The almost connections that never fully became something. The people who entered and exited your life too quickly. All of it was clearing the road for this. Because what is lasting often arrives after what is temporary teaches its lessons. And once this person sees you in their space, laughing in their kitchen, sitting in their quiet moments, moving through their environment as if you belong there, something in them will shift permanently. They will stop imagining whether you fit in their future. They will start seeing it. That is when the emotional walls begin to fall. Not dramatically. Not all at once. But steadily. The guarded conversations become vulnerable ones. The small talk becomes honesty. The curiosity becomes depth. The possibility becomes undeniable. And if you have ever wondered whether someone could truly choose you without confusion, without games, without mixed signals, this chapter may answer that question in a way your past never could. Because aligned love does not constantly leave you guessing. It reveals itself through consistency, through presence, through peace, through effort that feels natural rather than forced. This is why the house matters. It is not merely where you will spend time. It is where emotional clarity begins. Where masks fall off. Where future conversations happen late at night. Where truths are admitted that neither of you could say before. And one of those truths may be this. That both of you felt something building long before either of you knew what to call it. So when that realization comes, when the connection deepens and the emotional truth can no longer be avoided, do not shrink from it because it feels powerful. Do not question it simply because it arrived differently than your past. Healthy things can feel unfamiliar when chaos was your history. Let yourself receive what is genuine. Let yourself trust what is calm. Let yourself believe that not every meaningful chapter must begin with struggle. And if this message is resonating with you, if part of you feels like your future is being described in ways you cannot explain, share this with someone who believes life has bigger plans than what the present reveals. And if you want to keep following where this story unfolds, stay connected here, because what comes next may be the most important part of all. Because in part 5, you will hear what this person may confess to you after realizing you belong in their world. And why those words could change everything between you forever. There will come a moment, quiet, unplanned, almost ordinary on the surface, when this person looks at you differently than before. Not because your appearance changed. Not because the room suddenly became dramatic. But because something inside them will finally stop resisting what has been obvious for longer than they wanted to admit. And when that happens, the truth they have been holding back will begin rising to the surface. At first, it may appear in subtle ways. They will linger in conversations longer than necessary. They will ask deeper questions. They will become curious about details most people overlook. Your habits, your thoughts, the little stories that shaped you. Because when someone begins seeing you as part of their future, they stop interacting with you casually. They start paying attention with intention. And then one evening, perhaps during a quiet conversation, perhaps in a moment where the world feels unusually still, they may finally say what their heart has been trying to organize for weeks, or months. Not perfectly. Not in some polished speech. But honestly. They may tell you that your presence changed the atmosphere of their life. That things feel different when you are around. That the peace they feel with you has unsettled every idea they had about what connection was supposed to look like. And perhaps most powerfully of all, they may admit that when they imagined their future, they did not expect someone to arrive and make it feel this clear. That confession will matter. Not because it sounds poetic, but because it will confirm what your intuition has sensed for some time. This was never one-sided. Never imagined. Never wishful thinking. They were feeling it too. The restraint. The pull. The recognition. The strange certainty neither of you could explain. And once spoken aloud, once truth enters the room, nothing remains the same. Because spoken truth changes energy. It transforms uncertainty into clarity. It replaces wondering with knowing. It turns possibility into direction. That is when both of you begin facing a new reality. This connection is no longer theoretical. It is real. It is mutual. And it is becoming impossible to ignore. But here is what makes this chapter beautiful. Their confession may not be loud. It may be soft. Simple. Almost trembling in its honesty. Because the deepest truths are rarely shouted. They are spoken carefully. By people who understand their own vulnerability in saying them. So if that moment comes and their words catch you off guard, if their honesty feels overwhelming because part of you had waited so long to hear something real, breathe. Receive it. Let yourself be present enough to understand what is happening. Someone is choosing honesty over fear. Someone is allowing themselves to be seen. Someone is telling you what many people only feel but never admit. And that kind of truth, it changes everything. Because after that conversation, the connection deepens in ways neither of you can reverse. The bond becomes intentional. The energy becomes focused. The future becomes something discussed, not just imagined. You begin building, not wondering. And that is the real turning point. Not moving into the house. Not entering their world. Not sensing the connection. But hearing the truth confirmed. Because once someone admits what their heart has been holding, the entire path ahead opens differently. And in part 6, you'll hear what begins happening around both of you after this connection becomes visible to others. Including the reactions, the envy, and the unexpected attention that often appears when something rare starts becoming real. Once the truth between you becomes visible, once the connection is no longer hidden behind uncertainty or unspoken tension, the energy around both of you will begin to change. Not just internally. Externally. Because people notice when something rare is forming. They may not understand why. They may not be able to explain what feels different. But they will sense it. They will see the way this person looks at you now. The way their attention naturally finds you in a room. The way your presence around each other carries a calm confidence that does not need performance. And that visibility will create reactions. Some people will celebrate it. They will say the two of you make sense. That something about this connection feels natural. That the peace between you is obvious even in silence. But not everyone will respond that way. Because whenever something genuine begins to grow, it quietly exposes everything false around it. Those who settled for less may project their discomfort. Those who misunderstood your worth may suddenly pay attention. Those who doubted your future may act surprised when your life begins unfolding beautifully. Do not be shaken by that. Not everyone is meant to understand what was built for you. Some people only recognize your value once someone else chooses you openly. And that is exactly what may happen here. As this person becomes more certain about you, they will stop hiding the importance of your place in their life. Your presence will become known, acknowledged, respected. No more ambiguity. No more uncertainty about where you stand. The world around you will begin understanding that you are not temporary in their story. You are part of it. And for someone who once questioned whether they would ever be fully chosen, that realization may hit deeper than expected. Because being chosen clearly heals wounds that words alone never could. It teaches your nervous system what security feels like. It shows your heart what consistency looks like. It redefines love not as intensity, but as steadiness. This is where your standards permanently change. After being valued in the right place, you will never again confuse confusion for chemistry. You will never again romanticize inconsistency. You will never again beg for clarity from someone unwilling to give it. Because once real alignment enters your life, counterfeits become obvious. And the person beside you will feel this transformation too. They will realize that what they found with you is not ordinary. That your connection is not easily replaced. Not casually replicated. Not something to risk through hesitation. So they will protect it. They will nurture it. They will become more intentional with their words, their actions, their plans. Because they understand now. You are not just someone who entered their house. You are someone who entered their life and changed the atmosphere of it. That realization may inspire decisions neither of you expected so soon. Talks about future plans, shared responsibilities, long-term vision. A life built with mutual awareness instead of uncertainty. And that is where this story stops being about a prediction and starts becoming a partnership. One that others may admire. Some may envy. But only you two will truly understand how much had to happen behind the scenes for it to exist. Every heartbreak. Every delay. Every lesson. Every season of waiting. It was all shaping you for this.